Do you ever walk away from a conversation and replay the whole thing in your head? Not because you said something terrible, but because something about the way you said it felt small, hesitant, or weak. Maybe you knew your point made sense, but the words came out shaky. Maybe you sounded unsure even when you actually knew what you were talking about. Maybe you were in a meeting, on a date, talking to your boss, texting someone you like, or just making small talk with people who seem naturally confident. And afterward, you had that frustrating feeling of, why did I make myself sound less capable than I really am? If that sounds familiar, this matters more than most people realize, because confidence is not only about what you think inside. A huge part of it is how your speaking habits train other people to read you. And the hard part is this: a lot of insecure-sounding habits do not come from weakness. They come from being thoughtful. They come from trying not to be rude, trying not to sound arrogant, trying not to be wrong, trying not to make people uncomfortable, trying not to take up too much space. So what starts as politeness slowly turns into hesitation. What starts as self-awareness starts sounding like self-doubt. And over time, people do not just respond to your ideas, they respond to the energy around your ideas. They respond to whether your voice sounds grounded, whether your wording sounds clear, and whether you seem like you believe yourself. You can hear this everywhere. In meetings, one person shares a simple idea in a direct way, and the room listens. Another person shares an equally good idea, but they wrap it in nervous language, soften it 3 times, apologize before they even begin, and suddenly the exact same idea lands like it is optional. In dating, one person says, "I'd love to see you this weekend," and it feels attractive and clear. Another person says, "I mean, if you're not busy or anything, and no pressure, obviously, but maybe we could hang out if you want." And now the whole message feels shaky. In friendships, at work, in everyday life, people feel your relationship with your own words. So let's talk about 10 speaking habits that make you sound insecure, and more importantly, what to do instead. Because this is not about becoming aggressive, loud, or fake confident. It is about sounding calm, clear, and solid. It is about helping your outside communication match your actual intelligence, value, and emotional strength. The first habit is over-apologizing. This is one of the most common ways smart, decent people make themselves sound smaller than they are. You ask a question in a meeting and start with, "Sorry, this might be a dumb question." You send a follow-up email and write, "Sorry to bother you." You need clarification from a coworker and say, "Sorry, I'm just confused." You speak up in a group and begin with, "Sorry, can I just say something?" What is happening there? You are acting like your presence is a disruption. You are framing your own voice like an inconvenience before anyone else even has the chance to respond. Now, of course, real apologies matter. If you made a mistake, own it. If you were late, apologize. If you interrupted someone, fix it. But a lot of people apologize when they are not doing anything wrong at all. They apologize for asking, needing, speaking, existing, clarifying, and taking normal conversational space. Over time, this trains people to see you as less certain and less authoritative. Instead of "Sorry to bother you," try "Do you have a minute?" Instead of "Sorry, this might be a dumb question," say "I want to clarify something." Instead of "Sorry, I'm confused," say "I want to make sure I understand this correctly." That change sounds small, but it changes your whole frame. You are no longer apologizing for participating. You are participating like someone who belongs there.
The second habit is using too many qualifiers. This is when every sentence gets wrapped in words like kind of, maybe, I guess, probably, sort of, I think, just, and a little bit. Listen to the difference. I think maybe we should kind of go in a different direction. Compare that to, I think we should go in a different direction. Or even stronger, we should go in a different direction. When your sentence is overloaded with qualifiers, your message gets weaker before it even arrives. A lot of people do this because they are trying to sound nice. They are trying not to come across as too intense or too certain. But when every sentence sounds padded, people stop hearing conviction. They hear uncertainty. And here's what's surprising. You do not sound nicer. You often just sound less believable. This does not mean you should speak with fake certainty about things you do not know. It means your language should match your actual level of certainty. If you are unsure, be honestly unsure. Say, I'm not completely sure, but here's my read on it. That sounds mature. What sounds insecure is hiding behind constant verbal fog. Clean up your sentences. Remove extra just. Remove extra maybe. Remove extra kind of. The cleaner the sentence, the stronger the signal. The third habit is ending statements like questions. You hear this a lot when people are nervous, especially when they want approval. They say something like, I think the deadline should move to Friday, or I already sent that over, or we could try a different approach. The words are a statement, but the voice asks for permission. It makes your point sound like it needs validation before it can stand. This matters because tone shapes status. If you are always lifting the end of your sentence like you're asking people to confirm your reality, you slowly train them to see you as less anchored. You sound like you are checking whether you are allowed to think what you think. A better move is to let your statement land. I think the deadline should move to Friday. I already sent that over. We could try a different approach. You don't need a hard, dramatic tone. You just need completion. Let the sentence end like you mean it. A lot of confidence lives in the last 2 seconds of your sentence. The fourth habit is rushing. This one destroys more confidence than people realize. When you speak too fast, especially when you're nervous, it sounds like you are trying to get through your own words before someone challenges you. It can make you seem uneasy, overeager, or afraid of silence. And silence is one of the biggest tests of confidence. Insecure people often rush to fill space. Secure people can let a moment breathe. Think about someone in a meeting who says, yeah, so I was thinking maybe we could actually redo it and then send it Monday. Even if the idea is good, the delivery feels unsettled. Compare that with someone who says, I think we should redo it and send it Monday. Small pause. That gives us time to fix the main issue. That pause does something powerful. It tells the room, I'm not afraid of my own voice. I'm not afraid of your reaction. I can stay present while I speak. If you tend to rush, don't try to sound slower by forcing some strange, fake deep voice. Just practice finishing one thought before running into the next. Let your commas become real pauses. Breathe at the end of a sentence. If you're on a date, in an interview, or in a meeting, a calm pace almost always sounds more confident than a fast one. The fifth habit is asking for reassurance in the middle of your point. This shows up as, does that make sense? Every 30 seconds. Or, you know what I mean? After every sentence. Or, right? After every opinion. Again, once in a while, this is normal. Communication should be interactive. But when it becomes constant, it sounds like you don't trust your own ability to communicate unless the other person keeps emotionally holding your hand through it.
Imagine someone saying, I think the issue is the timeline, right? And we probably need more support, you know? Does that make sense? That person may be bright and capable, but the message feels dependent. It feels like they need approval at every step. A stronger version sounds like this. I think the issue is the timeline. We do not have enough room to do this well, and we need more support. Then pause. Let the other person respond. This is one of those things most people do wrong. They think confidence means adding more words. Usually it means needing fewer. Say the thing, then stop. Give people a chance to meet you there. Confidence is not constant reassurance seeking. Confidence is trusting that your thought can survive 1 second of silence. The 6th habit is shrinking your wants. This shows up in social life, dating, work, and even texting. Someone asks where you want to eat, and you say, "I'm okay with whatever." Someone asks what time works for you, and you say, "Anything is fine." Your boss asks for your thoughts, and you say, "I don't know, whatever you think is best." Sometimes flexibility is healthy, but if you do this all the time, you sound disconnected from your own preferences, and people feel that. Having preferences does not make you difficult, it makes you real. Confident people are often easier to deal with because they are clear. Insecure people sometimes think being agreeable all the time will make them more likable, but too much vagueness can actually create distance. It can make you seem hard to read, passive, or afraid to reveal yourself. Try saying, "I'd rather do lunch than dinner," or "Thursday works best for me," or "My preference is to keep this simple," or on a date, "I'd love to go somewhere quieter so we can actually talk." That is not controlling, that is grounded. One of the quietest forms of confidence is being able to name what you want without apologizing for it. The 7th habit is over-explaining. This is a big one. You say no to something, but then you add 7 extra sentences to justify it. You set a boundary, but then you sound guilty for having one. You are late replying to a text and send a paragraph explaining every detail of your day. You ask for space, but you soften it so much that the message disappears. Over-explaining usually comes from fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of disappointing people. Fear that if you are brief, you will seem rude. But too much explanation often creates the opposite effect. It makes you sound unsure of your own right to decide. A simple example: "I can't make it tonight, but thank you for inviting me." That is enough. Compare it to, "I'm so sorry, today was just crazy and I was going to come, but then this thing happened and I feel bad and I know I said maybe and I don't want you to think I don't want to come." Now the message sounds unstable, even if your reason is valid. Brevity can feel scary when you're used to earning permission, but calm, clear brevity is powerful. Not cold, not rude, just clean. "I can't do that by Friday, but I can have it ready Monday." "I'm not available this weekend." That doesn't work for me. You do not need a courtroom case every time you speak. The 8th habit is speaking from the outside instead of the inside. This is when you talk more about how you might be perceived than about what you actually mean. This is probably stupid, but maybe I'm overthinking this, but I don't know if this makes sense, but you probably won't agree, but notice what is happening. Before you even deliver your message, you're distancing yourself from it. You're presenting your own thought like something weak, embarrassing, or already defeated. This is one of the fastest ways to drain power from what you say, because people often believe you when you frame yourself that way. If you act like your point is shaky, they may treat it like it's shaky.
A better move is simple. Start where you actually stand. Here's what I'm noticing. I see it differently. My concern is this. I want to bring up something important. That kind of language feels centered. It feels like you are speaking from your own position, instead of peeking over your shoulder at how everyone else might judge you. The 9th habit is not finishing your thought. A lot of people start talking, feel a little discomfort, and then trail off. So I was kind of thinking that maybe,
and then nothing. Or they start with energy, then lose it halfway through because they sense someone is not fully engaged. Or they let a tiny interruption completely collapse their point. This creates a pattern where your communication never fully lands. Part of sounding confident is carrying your idea across the finish line. Not aggressively, not by dominating the conversation, just by completing the thought. If someone cuts in, you do not need to disappear. You can say, "Let me finish that thought," or "One more thing," or "The main point is this." Those phrases are simple, but they help you hold your place without turning the moment into a fight. A lot of insecure communication is not about having bad ideas. It is about abandoning good ideas too early. You feel one little wave of discomfort and you retreat. But confidence grows when you stay with your sentence long enough for it to exist in the room. The 10th habit is treating confidence like performance instead of permission. This one sits underneath all the others. Many people think confident speakers are people who never feel awkward, never get nervous, never hesitate, never care what anyone thinks. That is not true. Plenty of confident people still feel awkward sometimes. They still get nervous before important conversations. They still have insecure moments. The difference is they do not let those feelings fully run the microphone. They do not wait to feel perfect before they speak clearly. They let themselves be seen before they feel fully ready. They trust that a little discomfort is survivable, and that changes everything. Because once you stop treating communication like a test of your worth, your speech gets cleaner. You stop trying so hard to manage every reaction. You stop shrinking every sentence. You stop sounding like you need permission to be there. Now, here's what actually works if you want to change these habits in real life. Do not try to fix everything at once. That's how people create even more self-consciousness. Pick 2 habits that show up most in your life. Maybe it's over-apologizing and rushing. Maybe it's qualifiers and over-explaining. Maybe it's your tone rising at the end of every sentence. Start there. And then start listening to yourself with curiosity, not shame. After a call, after a date, after a meeting, ask yourself, where did I make myself smaller than I needed to? Not, was I perfect? Not, did they like me? Just, where did I undercut myself? That question is gold. Because once you notice the habit, you can replace it. Maybe instead of, "Sorry, just a quick question," you say, "I have a question." Maybe instead of, "I guess we could maybe try this," you say, "I recommend we try this." Maybe instead of sending a 3-paragraph explanation, you send a calm 2-sentence message. Maybe instead of filling silence, you let one beat pass before you respond. These are not dramatic changes, but people feel them instantly. And there's another truth that matters here. The goal is not to sound powerful all the time. The goal is to sound honest and steady. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is, "I don't know yet." Sometimes it's, "I need a minute to think." Sometimes it's, "I disagree." Sometimes it's, "I'd like something different." Confidence is not about having a perfect script for every moment. It's about not abandoning yourself inside the moment. Think about how different life feels when your words start matching your actual thoughts. Meetings feel less draining because you are not translating your idea into nervous language first. Dating feels less confusing because you are clearer about your interests, your standards, and your boundaries. Friendships feel better because people can actually know you. Work gets easier because your communication becomes cleaner, faster, and more trustworthy. Even awkward moments get less scary because you stop making awkwardness mean weakness. Most people are not judged as harshly as they think, but people do respond to signals. They respond to whether you sound like you trust yourself. And the good news is that trust is trainable. You can practice it in very ordinary places, at the coffee shop, in a team meeting, on a phone call, in a text, in a first date conversation, in the way you answer a simple question like, "What do you want to do?" Every one of those moments is a chance to sound a little more like someone who believes they have the right to be heard. So if you recognized yourself in some of these habits, that does not mean you are weak. It means you're human, and maybe you have spent a long time trying to stay safe in conversations instead of fully showing up in them. A lot of people do that, but you do not have to stay there. You can be kind without apologizing for existing. You can be thoughtful without sounding doubtful. You can be calm without disappearing. You can be respectful without making yourself small. And maybe that is the shift to carry with you after this video. You do not need to become a different person to sound more confident. You do not need a louder personality. You do not need some fake alpha energy. You need fewer habits that weaken your message and more trust in the fact that your voice can be simple, clear, and enough. The next time you speak, notice the urge to soften everything. Notice the urge to rush, explain, ask for reassurance, or apologize for taking space. Then do one thing differently. Just one. That's how this changes. Not through hype, through repetition, through awareness, through small moments where you choose clarity over self-erasure. And once you feel that shift, even a little bit, people around you will feel it too. If this spoke to you, stay with this channel because we're building the kind of communication that helps you feel stronger in real life, not just in theory. And if you know someone who sounds smarter than they let themselves sound, send this to them. It might help them more than you think.
Please subscribe.